Hi everybody and welcome back to Kimbo's Comfort Kitchen, and today we're going to talk about Duxelle. Well, what's Duxelle for? Oh, I don't know, about $16 a pound in my neighborhood. Sorry, couldn't help it. It was there. It was right on the table. However, Duxelle is essentially, for those that are unfamiliar with it, is a mushroom concentrate, a reduction if you will. The whole key to it is mushrooms are comprised of 60, 70, 80% water. And we want to get rid of most of that water and create this beautiful, nice texture to it. Not something you can just throw in a blender. It takes a bit of time, but it's worth it. And what do you use Duxelle for? Well, isn't that a rather personal question? You can put it in tomatoes. You can put it in pork chop. You can put it in, stuff it in a chicken. You can even put it in a cream sauce and make pasta out of it. There are a lot of different applications that you can use if it's done properly. I also have another ingredient that's not normal, which is I'm using truffle salt. Not a lot of it, you don't want to overpower it, but it is a great marry and it puts a whole different spin on a traditional Duxelle. So let's get going and I'm going to show you how to make a great Duxelle. Okay, so let's get started with the basic ingredients. So we've got garlic cloves, we've got butter, unsalted, I've got pepper, ground, and then I'm using a black truffle salt. You can use regular salt if you want, but I like the black truffle salt. It goes really well with the mushrooms. Mushrooms, they look a bit old, but that's okay. These are about to turn, which means they've got less moisture in them, which I like, which serves our purpose for the Duxelle. And fresh thyme and shallots, and that on the marsala. You could use white wine if you want, but I prefer to use marsala. So let me start the prep and we'll get going. Okay, so the first step is I've washed the mushrooms. I know I don't want to hear about not washing. First of all, if you do leave any dirt on them, don't worry about it. It's the dirt is inert. Dirt's inert. But I've taken the stems off, and as I mentioned earlier, these are a little bit older, which is great because they're going to have a little bit more or less moisture in them. So I want to turn this into a brunoise, if you will. In other words, really fine chop. And I'm going to do all of them like this. So I'm not going to bore you with the gory details. But it's not a mince. If you put this in the blender, you're going to end up with just a big messy goo. You still want to have some particulates here like this. I'm just showing this for a demonstration here, and then I'll do them all. But that's about the consistency that you want. Make sure your knives are sharp. Even though they're soft mushrooms, it really helps if they're sharp. So we want them to be all about the same size, and that's it right there. And now I'm going to do them all. We'll get back. Okay, so we're getting there. This is about the consistency we want. So I'm going to finish up and do all of these shrooms, and then we'll start with the shallots. Okay, so the mise en place is done. The mushrooms are chopped, garlic's chopped, the shallots are chopped, the thyme's chopped, butter's ready, and let's go to the pan. Alright, so I've warmed the pan up a little bit, and I'm going to put the butter in. I've got all the amounts on my site. If you want to look below, I've also got it typed in below the video itself. So we're going to let this melt, and then we're going to add the shallots and the garlic. I'll be right back. Alright, so we brought the butter up to a simmer here. I'm just going to let some of the water evaporate. You can hear it starting to sizzle. Water is our enemy right now. Enemy. So the more we can get rid of it, the better at the end of the day. And I'm going to put the shallots in. We do not want the butter, by the way, to brown. That's the last thing we want. So I'll just take that. I'm going to let this simmer, and I'll put the garlic in as well. Get the shallots. And as soon as it starts to simmer again, I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Riveting, I know. It's a very riveting recipe. But in the end, it's awesome because you can use this for so many different dishes. I'm going to use this for a stuffing for a Danish dish afterwards, which you will see the link to. So I've got it on about a little less than 3/4 heat right now. As soon as it softens up a little bit more, then I'm going to add the shrooms. Actually, I lied. I'm going to season this first rather than waiting until after. So I'm putting in this truffle salt. You can use regular salt if you want, but this just goes so beautifully with the Duxelle. And some fresh cracked pepper. You know what? I love this salt so much I might even just put a little bit more in. I've put in like 2 teaspoons altogether, I think, more or less. Now I'm going to turn the heat down a bit. Like I said, I don't want this to brown. And I'm going to put the shrooms in. This will bring down the heat immediately. It's a lot. You're never going to use this all at once unless you're in a commercial kitchen. But this keeps really well. So we're going to toss this. Yeah, it's got high walled sides, so I can't do that. But mix well, and then on to the next phase, which is low simmer. And I'm going to do this, I'm going to let this simmer, and all the water is going to start coming out of the mushrooms, which is exactly what we want. And we'll check back in about 15 minutes. Okay, so we're 10 minutes in, and you can see how much water there still is. So we're going to be doing this for another 10 minutes. Let's do a taste test though, just to see what we got here. Oh yeah. It's so flavorful. So earthy. This is going to go with so many dishes. Let's come back in 10. Alright, so we're 20 minutes in. But as you can see, we've still got a fair bit of water. So we're going to go another 5 minutes. Oh, before I do that, I'm adding the herbs in now, the thyme. I don't add it in at the very beginning because it washes out if it overcooks. So this way it preserves the flavor. Fresh herbs are kind of delicate that way. Dried herbs are a lot more tolerant. But 5 minutes. Okay, so we're almost there, kids. There's still, but you can hear a sizzle now. It's not steaming anymore, and we don't want to fry this. Okay, so I'm going to take this off the heat. Now I could go a little bit longer, but I really don't want to fry this. It's not the purpose. I just want to steam it and get most of the moisture out so that it has some tight consistency, a relatively tight consistency. And I'll show you what that looks like as soon as it cools down. And voila, here's the finished product. You can see that I could actually form this into a quenelle if I wanted to. This is the texture I'm looking for, like that, if you can see that. And I'm going to be using this on a Danish recipe shortly, which is about to come up. I'm going to make it. It's stuffed pork patty, breaded, a variation on a classic Danish dish. So take a look. It'll be, I'll put it up in the corner.